Hey guys, Drew with upTOP Overland. Just wanted to show you guys how to assemble the Baja Designs rock lights into the upTOP Overland scenePODs. So you guys are going to take your Baja Designs rock light and your upTOP scenePOD. At this point, you're going to take the wire from the rock light and push it through the bottom of the scenePOD. Go ahead and pull the rock light up and into position, and then slide it into the 3D printed housing. Some will be a little tight, but don't be afraid to click it in. At that point, you're going to take the wire and push it through the loop in the bottom of the scenePOD. And then when you're doing this, make sure it's snug, but you don't want to kink the wire, so just work it through, be patient with it, and get it to where it looks like that. From here, you're going to take a 3 mil hex and the provided M4 hardware in the Baja Designs rock light. You're going to use the shorter of the 2 screws and apply a decent amount of pressure to get the screw started into the scenePOD. Using your 3 mil, make sure you tighten your M4 all the way down. Once you've got one side snug, go back, double check the other side, make sure it is also snug. Do not over tighten the screws, as this is plastic and you do run the risk of stripping these. This wire is pretty long on these rock lights, so you can go ahead and start by taking about half of that length off. It doesn't have to be super precise. From here, you're going to strip the outer wire off back probably an inch, inch and a half. I'm going to use a fancy tool here, but you guys can just use regular strippers. So take that off, and then you're going to get obviously your positive and your negative. From this point, we can go ahead and take about 1 centimeter off. If it doesn't pull the whole wire off, actually use the casing to twist the wire, get it nice and tight. And then do the same thing on your negative. That time I pulled the casing off, so I just have to twist this one by hand, no big deal. From here, you're going to take your little pins. It's easiest to do this with needle nose pliers. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this pin, insert the wire into here. These first big tabs, you want to get pinched around the wire, the metal itself. So start by like doing a little pre-pinch and then work in to clamp down on the metal. These don't have to be ridiculously tight, but just give it a little tug test to make sure it's not gonna come out. And then from there, take the little metal prods and clamp them down on the actual installation of the wire itself. And again, just snug it down. Doesn't have to be super tight. Give it a little tug test to make sure it's not going to pull out, and that's how you put the pin on. Once you have both of the pins firmly crimped onto the wire, you're going to insert them into the physical plug itself. Make sure that the red wire on the rock light is going to the orange wire in your quick wire harness, and black is going to black. So whatever orientation that is, you just insert the pins in through the back of the rubber boot on your Deutsch connector. And just be gentle with these. There's no need to force it. Take your time and just kind of work them in a little bit at a time. What we're ultimately shooting for here is to get 2 little clicks with the wire. The pin itself will actually click into the plug. You can just stare down in here, double check it, and you can even reach down in here with some needle nose and wiggle these guys to make sure that they are seated properly. From there, you're going to take one of these little green inserts, also put those on some needle nose pliers, and you're going to insert them straight down into the plug. And this basically just locks the pins in place, and you're going to get an audible click. At that point, your scenePOD is fully ready to install onto your ArmorTech. When you receive the ArmorTech from us, whether it be in an alpha or a Bravo version, this knockout is going to still be in place. You'll need to cut that out with a Dremel, or you can file them out or use a tiny little handsaw. There's multiple ways to attack it. From there, you're going to take your plug from your quick wire, feed it through the hole, and then you're simply going to plug in your scenePOD. From there, you are going to push everything back through and get the scenePOD roughly in place. We're going to be using a 9/64 drill bit in this instance. Hold it up, make sure that this top edge is as even as you can get it. and then it's easiest to kind of pinch it in place. And all we're going to be doing here is just marking the holes with the drill bit. Basically what you're doing is stuffing the powder coat. At this point, you can unplug the scenePOD, push that back through, make sure that there's no wires in the way here, and then you're going to continue with your 9/64 drill bit and go all the way through the aluminum. You're going to pull the plug back through. You're going to plug it back in and get your scenePOD roughly in place. And grabbing a 2.5 mil hex, you're going to use the two provided M4s with your scenePOD, and these are going to self-tap into the aluminum. So just insert it through the hole, and then you can start to thread this. This one does not take a lot of pressure. Slow and steady wins the race.